I hope I made it in time to cast this game. Yes, okay, good. I did catch the start of this game. So I think this is like game 3 of a series of 5-man normal games. But I wasn't here to catch the first 2. I caught the second one halfway through, and then I decided that it actually wasn't worth casting. This is actually a pretty special game. It's actually practicing for a tournament. So a little bit more higher stakes than your average rank game where really all you gain or lose is LP. This is an actual city competition that is set to take place next week. So this is going to be a practice session. I'm not a part of it. I'm just here as a caster. I will also be casting the main event, so I'm just here as warm-up, casting this one game, warming up my voice, getting into the hang of things. So the team that I am following here is going to be Red Team. There's a solid combination of players here. There's players who's been playing this game forever. There's players who have casted forever. There's also other similarly very skilled players, and there's also players who haven't played this game in years. So certainly more one-tricks and certainly less skillful than people who basically play this game as if it's their job or something. So there's going to be a pretty wide variety of players in this game of all different elos coming together in one beautiful normal game that I believe is actually draft pick, considering the scoreboard has been fully organized for me. So I'm pretty sure that this is actually a draft game. They did their pick and bans, and now they're actually in games. Obviously, I can't see their pick and bans. Okay, I can't see their bans, obviously. The other thing I should mention before I get into the cast, I finally fixed my spectate to display all chat. I can finally see all chat, and this is certainly a cause for celebration. Although, for the most part, I just see a lot of like question marks being spammed in all chat via text, which is usually very BM, as well as just people typing easy. Very rarely is there any sort of productive discussion happening in all chat. Not that it is a place for productive discussion to begin with, but there's gonna be a lot of trash talk and there's gonna be a lot of BM, and we're just gonna have to get ready for that. If nothing else, I hope in the rare occasion where it actually does make a difference, I do hope it will at least make the game a little bit spicier, add a little bit of the drama. Assuming, of course, the players aren't too tilted by it. And speaking of tilted, there's a Graves coming in for a super early invade on the Volibear. One more shotgun shell will do it, but the Malphite flashes over the wall to try to get one back. Smite onto the blue buff will help him get his health back, but he's going to dash face first into a Katarina. And this Graves might not be long for this world unless that Blast Cone has something to say about it. And now there's nowhere to go. He's being pincered on all sides, and he's just a very, very dead man. He did get out Katarina's Ignite, and the Katarina has left lane for a significant period of time to make that play happen. She did get the kill off it. She did grab the blue buff, the red buff rather. The blue buff has still not been taken. So overall, I say that's actually not quite worth it for the Graves. Like, yes, you deny the Volibear's red buff, but then you just hand it over to their mid laner. Not to mention, dying super early does kind of set you back. Volibear is the biggest loser out of all this, of course. He died very early, came back with only refill pot, can't even upgrade the jungle item. Now he had just to get back to clearing. But as for the Graves, dying there is obviously not ideal, but he did make the Katarina expend her Ignite. Dropping that one kill might be somewhat painful, but the Galio right now, level 4 to level 3. Can he actually win this trade? The taunt does go down on the Katarina. She does get ignited and she has to flash away. So that's Katarina's flash gone. She's actually lingering in the lane. There's very little health left. She should just recall for safety. Now the Ezreal is farming down here against the Jhin. Ooh, 2 charges on the grenade, plus a root, taking a lot of damage, and he gets yoinked back by the Swain. The Jhin swing bot lane, something I haven't even talked about, is definitely very terrifying because of things like this that can happen, and the Ezreal being driven back. The Flay will keep them off the Ezreal's back for now, but the Thresh is the next to get pulled back. And meanwhile, in mid lane, there's a very, very out of mana Galio brawling with a Polar Bear, and this Polar Bear is clapping him. He needs to get out really fast. Flash from the Swain will get him out of here, and the Graves is here to join in on the action. He does get pulled slightly under the tower. He'll be fine. If he grabs the lantern, he does grab it on the last second, makes it out. He did expend a lot of summoners, all 4 of them in fact. Look at that. Blue team summoner display on the left. Everything is on cooldown. Very high value gank from the Graves indeed. Meanwhile, top lane. This is not a favorable trade for Sion because his back is to so many minions. He just needs to queue the wave. Malphite is out farming him by a pretty significant margin so far in the early game. Mid lane we will have Katarina and Galio both returning. Galio will actually opt to finish Revolver over the Kindle Gem. It is a higher damage component to get first, but you do lose out on the health and you do lose out on the cooldown reduction. 2 stats that you might really want to hold on to because they're pretty valuable. Dematerializer charges are going down onto the cannon. He will be able to nab that, and Katarina falling slightly behind here in CS. She'll be fine, but the true CS differential this game is happening in bot lane. Ezreal almost doubling the Jhin CS, and in fact the Jhin goes back with no summoners, allows the Swain, and he picks up Crit Cloak. Not the best use of 800 gold, I would say. Backing with 800 gold is always awkward. If that was me, I certainly wouldn't do that. I'd probably pick up Call or something. Picking up a Crit Cloak just seems like a very, very hefty waste of 800 gold in the early game. Maybe a few patches ago when the Cloak gave 25% crit, it would have done the job. Oh, the Volibear. He's not in the game anymore. He's had enough. He's headed back home. 6.5 minutes in. Red team has just a passively accrued 400 gold lead. The Polar Bear does make it back. Just out of the CS differential alone, you can see the Ezreal, he has his own call, and he has a tier stacking it up. And he's actually more combat ready than the Jhin. Unless this burst does a number on him, the Lantern will not be grabbed, he will just shift back. Grabbing the Lantern would have been a more aggressive option, but there's no way they can win that trade. So the correct play would have been to just ignore the Lantern and blink away. So far it's a very slow early game still. Oh, the Dematerialize, 1 more charge went onto the cannon. I wonder if I can check this actually. Hold on. Yeah, all 3 charges went onto the cannon. Definitely not the way I would use the Dematerializer. I would definitely go for 1-1-1. Because you have to also consider, aside from using it to shove, the other use of Dematerializer is making your wave clear life slightly easier in the future. 12% increased damage against the siege minion is definitely not a very good way. Oh no, disaster for red team. Volibear walks in, takes a kill, and the dragon is the freest thing of all time. And the bot lane might be in a little bit of trouble as well. The Galio does sound his hero signal. He's gonna come down. The Justice Punch comes forward. They're going to stop the Swain in his tracks, but he's gonna make it out. The Mystic Shock gets taken out by the Jhin. Flash forward. They will kill off the Birdman, and here comes the Katarina to even the score. The double kill for the Ezreal gets answered immediately. Galio going for a taunt with sub-zero health, but he's on a dagger. That means he's just gonna die. And the Katarina coming in, spinning. It's like a ballerina, getting a perfect cleanup here. She is so rich now off the back of that. She did expend her ignite, and all in all, they committed 4 people bottom lane. And everybody on red team did not make it out. So off that play, blue team will climb up to a 700 gold lead. Volibear will channel the lightning. Start clearing out the raptors. The Graves returning to a second set of buffs. This is such a slow second buff take. The buffs have respawned a minute and a half ago, and he's just now taking it. Then again, the Volibear, he hasn't been back to his blue either. Both junglers are pretty slow at clearing their own camps this game, opting for some more lane action instead. And the Jhin going for the Storm Razor, but getting every component that is not the correct one first. Now Galio, he does have a Proto Belt, but he's otherwise naked. He has no other items in his inventory. It's very jarring to look at. Especially considering he started the game even with Minion Dematerializer, and now he doesn't even have potions, he doesn't have wards, he doesn't really have anything. Thresh is going to Lantern way off to the side after taking a poke, and there's the Galio coming in with a Justice Punch. He gets the taunt off. But it's just a tiny bit of chip damage. He can't do much else with it. And the Sion, he's opting for an aggressive trade against the Malphite. But his CS is so far behind. It's like an exact mirror between top and bot for both teams. Their CS count is almost identical. It's kind of funny to look at. The Swain is going to be taken down here. No collateral damage. They used it to kill the bird, so the Jhin will walk out. No long range snipe is possible. Sion squarely losing that trade. No surprise there. He's just going to have to get out. He is an entire chain vest behind his lane opponent, so there's no way he can win that trade. Unless the Malphite eats like 2 free Sion Qs with max charge. There's no way he's winning that fight. And speaking of not winning, there's Galio getting pounced on by several people. Omewrecker comes out from the lightning and disables the turret, making for a very clean tower dive. Volibear does get that kill. The Graves still diving here. He's going so far, so aggressive. Rift Herald is mid and the jungler not present to answer it. He's still very low. He's pondering in and out. He wants to make a play happen. He does kill off the bird yet again. Bot lane is being fully zoned out from their wave, but red team's mid tower. They have to send someone to take care of it. The curtain call does come out, but the Jhin cancels it before the first shot lands. And there's the Malphite. The unstoppable force comes through. The chunk lands on the Ezreal, but the Jhin, he's walked up too far forward. The first shot. He will kill the Ezreal, but he will give his own life in exchange. Mid lane, that tower. It's finally going down through 4 plates of armor. Katarina slowly whacks it to death. Meanwhile, top lane, the bot lane, I mean, the Volibear is gonna run down. And suddenly red team gets super punished for their overstay. They went for a mid-long tower dive and eventually built a home behind the enemy's tier 1 tower, and when the bodyguards come, they do pay for it dearly. And speaking of paying for it dearly, nobody answered that Herald mid, and disastrously Katarina's gonna walk away with such a large amount of money in her pocket. Look at that gold lead. From just the mid lane alone, it's 1300 ahead. In fact, that accounts for almost the entire gold lead. Because top lane is ahead by 1k, but bot lane is also ahead, so that gets evened out. Jungler's ahead here for blue team. Red team is actually pretty systemically ahead, except for their AD carry. Their Jhin is definitely not pulling his weight. He finally gets his BF sword. At least making it consistent. Every back he gets a component. The trash talk is in fact starting in the alt chat. I generally don't pay too much attention to it. In fact, I think in my interface, my chat scale is not at 100. Will this make trash talk easier to spot? I don't know. But the Jhin is in fact kindly offering a coupon for an REI. Which is, I mean, it's not the most creative trash talk I've ever seen, but it's better than straight up spamming the question marks and the EZs, which gets really tiring real quick. So I'll give him some props. I'll rate that flame a solid 6 out of 10. And there it is, the protoball forward, they shut off the cat, and that's suddenly 3 bodies on the ground. Hi Jhin, says the Ezreal, run! Ezreal's gonna warn him, but they are running the completely wrong way to catch the Jhin. He has in fact run away. And suddenly with that play, red team climbs back into the lead. Oh, I do have adult filter on. Maybe I should turn that off. Oh, you can see that the Sion max charge Q not doing any damage. In fact, hold on. How do you turn off profanity filter? How do you turn off profanity filter? I even have legacy cursor on because I don't know, the old cursor grew on me. Oh wait, ignore that. Hold on, the Ezreal's getting caught here. Curtain call, 1 bullet. We'll seal his fate. Now the Jhin has to guess where he is. He needs to try to make it out of the cone, but the Thresh, he does tank the first shot. Ezreal lives a sliver of life. Just a tiny sliver. Alright, back to the interface. We gotta disable profanity filter, right? It's not in here? Maybe it's not in this option menu. Maybe I have to be in the game to turn that off. Yeah, maybe. Because I don't see it in here. Oh well, we'll figure it out later. We'll just bleep everybody's naughty words out for this game. Maybe we'll turn it off in the future. Maybe I forget and never turn it off. Who knows? I haven't turned it off in 10 years. I probably won't start now. Just so I can see the uncensored chat. Teleport is gonna come down from the Sion. He's gonna go back to top lane to answer. But that also means Malphite has the TP advantage. And speaking of TP advantage, he might be thinking of committing it now. The dive is coming in. No, maybe collateral damage is doing diddly squat. The Swain is still tanking it out. The Katarina is charging in. The Ezreal trying to contribute what little damage he can. But the Volibear is just so tanky. And suddenly blue team runs their way in. They trade down the Swain, but they get 2 kills. They might get more here. The teleport has arrived from the Malphite. He doesn't have unstoppable force, but the end of the line gives him the end of the line. Now the Gravesters has to try to run away from the Volibear. He needs to keep running at the end of the line once again. Gets the kite. Meanwhile, top lane, Ezreal finishes off the Jhin. What seemed to be a very promising team fight very much is not so. In fact, let's rewind it for a little bit and see what happened up here. Actually, it's not that eventful. Alright, let's just fast forward again. So in the meantime, Sion did use the vacancy to take his tower top lane. And all said and done, blue team actually fell more behind in gold as a result of that play. This is such a jarring CS chart. Just at a glance, it looks so strange and weird. Sion preemptively flashes away from the Katarina. He still has the unstoppable onslaught. He will not commit it. He'll be out safe and sound. Nobody can chase him down here. Katarina is 3-1-3. She did get a lot of early kills, but it seems systemic with some, I guess, less skillful Katarina players. I don't intend that to be a flame. Like if you interpret that as a flame, I'm sorry, but it's just like less experienced, you know? Less experienced Katarina players, when they get an early lead, they tend not to play the game at a fast enough pace to snowball it. You can see she gets a 3-0 lead in bot lane, and then just proceeds to not do much with it. As a Katarina, your job here, if you do get rolling in the early game, is you have to hyper accelerate the game for your own team. That is your role. If you're so much ahead, you do need to be roaming a lot. You do need to be exerting so much side lane pressure that the enemy just can't deal with it. And what we've seen from this Katarina isn't that. The Malphite will all to get himself out from the Graves. This Graves suddenly so much more fed than the Volibear as well. Certainly pulling it back in a huge way. Dragon is up in about a minute's time. The top lane, they might be fighting here. It's a 2-on-2. The Volibear is running in. The stun clapping goes on to the Volibear. But the Malphite has to try to get out. He's stacking a ton of armor, so the Graves is finding it difficult to bust through him. In fact, with Galio being a tank, this is a full AD team here for a red team. It's a very comfortable game for a Malphite. He just stacks armor. He's not killable. Volibear is going to commit this ultimate, but there comes Katarina. She gets stunned and CC'd immediately. The taunt goes through, and that's 2 bodies on the ground. When it looked like the kill wasn't even going to happen, Katarina walks in from a very weird angle and just donates her body for science. And gets completely killed off. So that's kind of that kind of goes back to my point about like less experienced Katarina players. You don't want to do this. The angle which you enter fights, the timing which you can jump into encounters, all of these do have to be thought through very well. Katarina on paper isn't a hard champion to play. What makes her slightly tricky to master is you have to learn positioning, you have to learn when to jump in, you have to learn how to accelerate the game. And for a lot of newer players and for a lot of like weaker players, I say, or just less experienced is the word I'm looking for probably, one thing they struggle with the most, aside from basic fundamentals that helps them climb, is the fact that they play slower. They don't necessarily cascade leads as efficiently as people with more experience. You can kind of see that's what's been happening here. When blue team did jump out to a super early lead, none of them really did anything with it. Malphite had a hefty CS lead, but never capitalized on a TP play. Katarina got 3 super early kills, never really did anything. This team fight might be different. No, the Katarina just gets killed off. Who gets the dragon? It is going to be blue team. Volibear does get the Cloud Drake, but the Jhin has been left for dead. That's going to be a 4-for-1 trade for a dragon. They will take that any day of the week. And speaking of any day of the week, it is Baron time. Up in 10 seconds. All of red team will be heading over. There's still 4 bodies on the respawn timer. It's an ultless Malphite. He can't do it. It's a blind pit as well. They're just going to go ahead and start it. Baron's going to get spawn killed here pretty soon. Malphite is slowly waddling his way down mid lane. I don't think he's coming to contest this. It's a little bit too late. Home guards are activating now. It is 20 minutes into the game. So a super fast version of home guards is coming in. Unless they changed that from like 3 years ago. I may be citing 3-year-old patch notes. But that's a totally uncontested 20 minutes spawn Baron. Excellent call here by the red team. They do secure themselves the big purple worm. Now blue team finding themselves reeling. Jhin and Katarina. It's been 20 minutes. You gotta get over 100 CS here. It's been 20 minutes. This is very poor CS per minute. There's no excusing this poor level of CS. Now Jhin finally gets one back on Galio, who way overextends, and he hits the 100 CS mark. Just donate the rest of the wave to Cat. Aw, damn it. These CS numbers are very, very low. It's certainly much lower than I'm used to. And overall, it's been a decently low income game. And speaking of low income game, there is the Deadly Flourish missing on the knocked up Ezreal. He needs to try to flash and get himself out, but the CC, it's so much. They're going to commit a lot of mobility spells to get him. But there is the Graves in the backline. Collateral damage finishes off the Swain in the front of the fight. The Jhin is being sandwiched between the rock and the shotgun, and he needs to try to get out. Resmite does land on him, and now the Graves is trying to kite it out from the tank's end of the line. Will kill off the Malphite here. The Katarina has arrived. She's getting the resets. She's back on the board, getting that shutdown onto the Graves. They don't have carries. They only have a Galio. He's super tanky. The Sion has nowhere to run. He needs to try to get out, but he has been cornered. Triple kill to the Katarina. She is 7-3-4. The second most impressive scoreline in this game so far. Third most. I didn't even look at Graves. But with that scoreline, what can she really do? She is gonna work on a second item, Zayas. Dragon is coming up in 2 minutes. There's nothing on the map to really take. And red team, they actually just got aced in a very staggered manner, so the announcer didn't call it out. But the Baron buff that they worked so hard on the 20 minutes in have all evaporated. No living member is carrying it anymore. Justice Punch will whiff, but that is 2 bodies dead for no reason here in the river. They do take a 2-for-0 on the return. Blue team does get caught out on the retreat. If they were even retreating at all. That was a really weird movement. Meanwhile, let's check back on the items. Katarina, she finished her Zion's Hourglass. She's working on Void Staff next. I hope to God that's not Void Staff. I hope that's like Morelos or like a even Oblivion Orb or something. The Jhin, he's not done his Eye Edge at 23 minutes into the game. So he's certainly not the most heavy DPS right now, especially out of mana. He landed a 3-kill bouncing grenade onto the Graves, and Graves took maybe 300 damage from it. Certainly not a lot to write home about. The siege is coming down. Red team says even if we don't have Baron, we'll still take this tower. But will it work out for them? They need to kill the tower here. They're still diving in. The Katarina does die to the Galio and the tower falls. The Swain goes bird form is coming in, but blue team are dropping bodies left and right. The Swain is really the last threat. He will be killed off. 0, 8, and 7. He is now fully negative in every sense of the word. The most generous metric will still say he's negative. Graves is going to spam some taunt in the enemy base. Katarina says the GG, well played. But are they actually surrendering? Did she just throw out the vote and just call GG well played, assuming that her teammates will yes? Because right now the game hasn't been surrendered yet. It is pretty over. The red team has such a massive lead. They're gonna... Oh, there it is. There is the surrender vote. The red team, they do take the victory. Off a pretty rocky early game, they did stabilize in the mid game as blue team's complete incompetence and team fighting thus shines through. And red team takes a W.